Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. This is for MED230, and I'm just showing you, here is what you see on your Moodle shell. Welcome to the course. You see it week by week. But I'm going to show you my view that has a list of everything that we have on here. Now, the scope of your exam, which will be on Monday, 6:30 p.m. promptly. After 7:30 p.m., guess what? You're no longer eligible to take that particular exam, and you and I will now have to talk to Dr. Curvall to see what we're going to do about your grade. This particular midterm will be multiple choice and short answer, probably around 50 items, and it will be based on everything that we'll be discussing in the next couple of minutes. So this is a quick generalized review, and everything you'll need here is on Moodle. Now, another thing that we'll also be focusing on is the quizzes that you took online. If you didn't take them, you got a 0. I'm very sorry, but that's how it goes. Okay? If you didn't take the quiz on the ground, you were absent that day. Just like what we talked about in the beginning of class, on the first day, it's a 0. We're very sorry. So, those are already missed opportunities. Let's talk about the opportunities that are available for you right now. So I'm going to take those quizzes and actually remove any stops on them, so you can take them again at your own leisure. But it will not give a grade, because the grade that you got is the grade that you got, and it will stand. Okay? So let's look at some. Essentially, what I'm going to do is, I'm not really going to go over every little thing, but I'm going to go over how I make questions so that you can understand how to study and what's important. So right now, one example is I could hit up one of the threaded discussions. Where is... Where's my original discussion? Let's look at Chapter 1 outline first. Before we get to the Chapter 1 outline, look at the thread of discussions. Look at some of the answers and some of the comments that you put in. I'll be asking certain things about each thread of discussion. We're going to go over that in a minute. But if you look at many of my notes, it's not really notes. They're an outline. So, of course, I actually copied the actual learning objectives. And even if I didn't copy the actual learning objectives, you'll see that anything in bold will be these key terms. If they're in the key terms, they're bolded, and also we talked about it in class, guess what? What are the odds they are fair game? What are the odds it's going to come out? Definitely. And definitely, if the key term was also mentioned in the learning objectives, it's definitely going to be there. A classic example, law versus ethic. Laws are here, ethics are here. It is the second learning objective in Chapter 1. So doesn't that scream a law versus ethic question? I could give you a story, and you're going to tell me, what did they violate? Dr. Garias murdered because his wife. What did he violate? A law or an ethic?
Law.
Law. Law. Is that the higher or lower ethic?
Higher. Law? Yeah.
Is law the higher or lower?
I guess lower now.
No, I guess lower now, because remember lower, what's the lowest standard? What's the minimal that'll keep me out of jail? Should I murder my wife? That's the lower standard. What's the higher standard? Should I treat her like the queen of the universe and be nice to her even though she doesn't deserve to be nice? This is all on tape, so I hope she doesn't see this, because it is on YouTube. But it's just an example. So for my wife, if she sees that, it's just an example, honey. Don't worry about it. It means nothing, right? So law is the minimal standard. Like for example, when I drive, I have to be on the right side of the road so I don't hit anybody. It's the most minimal I can get away with. Which one's going to make me go to jail? Ethic or law? Law. Because law is the enforceable one. Ethic, let's say I'm not nice to my patient. Who the hell cares? Will I get fired for not being nice to you, my student? No. But I teach the higher ethic, which is what? I have to be nice to you. I should be nice to you. Because no one, think about it, no one comes to school to be barked at. We already had that in high school and grade school. So I had enough of it, so I hope you did. So right now, think of that's how you do it. Discuss the reasons. Why do we study it? We didn't talk about that too much, but look at number 4. The 3 decision-making models. Did we talk about that?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
How does it make you feel?
Yeah, and remember right here. So let's look at these right things. Right here, if you look at my notes, do you see how I can do A, B, C? And that's a classic question. This is what I did. What does it apply to? Or according to the 3-step model, what did we violate? According to the 7-step model, what went wrong? According to Dr. Lowe's 3-step model, what went wrong? So you have to know and the application. Let's look at some other things here. Remember, there were a whole bunch of cases and situations on page 5 of your text. Do you know what you would do in these cases? Can you apply the decision-making process? Remember, I am not a creative individual. Where am I going to get the stories from? Either from my lecture, from the 18 stories that I tell at every class, or I can get them on page 5 and 6 of your textbook. Know the different types of ethics, starting on page 10. Okay, let me go through some examples. So, here's some examples, and they're also in your key items or in your glossary. Utilitarianism, cost-benefit analysis, what is an indigent patient, what are right-based ethics, what are duty-based ethics, what are justice-based ethics. Remember, we just talked about the 4 Ds in our last lecture. That's duty-based ethics. Number 1, justice is all about what? Even. My patient has AIDS, the other patient doesn't have AIDS. I treat them equally. I treat them like they both have AIDS. That's just how you treat actually every patient that I'm doing any bloodborne activities with, like they have AIDS. Virtue-based ethics. Okay? Now, if we look at page 13 on your textbook, there is theory, strengths, and weaknesses. Could that be a beautiful short answer question? Remember, what's nice short answer questions? Definition versus another definition. Like, what's the difference between utilitarianism and right-based ethics? Or, what are the strengths of utilitarianism? What are the strengths and weaknesses? And that's on page 13. Starting on page 13 as well, there's a whole bunch of definitions. What are the different virtues? So, can you define beneficence, fidelity, gentleness? And do you notice fidelity is bolded? Humility, justice, perseverance, responsibility. Sanctity of life is bolded. Tolerance is bolded. Work is bolded. Who am I going to ask more? What is a better high-yield topic? The ones that are bolded. But, can I answer all the other ones? But what should you concentrate on? The ones that are bolded. Remember, when we take a trip, what do we pay attention to? We pay attention to signs. Anything that's bolded, anything that's italicized, anything that is in different colors. Interpersonal ethics, which are on page 15. Integrity, fairness, empathy, sympathy. Remember, we took a couple of minutes talking about empathy and sympathy. What is the difference? Should we feel sorry for our patient? No, never. We should never be sympathetic. We should be empathetic. Feeling sorry for somebody, oh my God, you got cancer. Oh, what's wrong with you? Oh, this is horrible. That's not going to help my patient. We have to show compassion. Due process was a big thing. Comparable worth, we really didn't talk about that too much, so that shouldn't really be on your radar. We didn't talk about, oh wait, I'm jumping the gun. Bioethics, know the principles of autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, principle of justice. Now, how many times you heard the word justice? We saw it on 3 different lists. So what does that scream out to you? It will be on the exam, at least 2 questions. Definite. And last but not least, we didn't talk about QA or quality assurance too much, but you should know what it is, and it's on page 23, but not a biggie for this particular chapter. All right? Okay, let's look at chapter 2 outline. Now, federalism, checks and balances. Can you explain to me what that is? Can you explain to me the different parts of government? You see figure 2.1 on page 32, figure 2.3 on page 33. It is far easier, far better to just look at those diagrams than to do what? Read all the descriptions. Know your sources of law. Where do we get laws from? Know the difference between statutory and regulatory. Aren't they the same thing? Doesn't that look like a beautiful both A and B question? Again, I am not creative. Everything that I'm saying here is probably on the midterm. I haven't seen the midterm in a couple of years, but I know the way I think. That's the way I think. Classification of law. Do you know the difference between civil and private law? Which one has the greater preponderance of evidence? Remember, civil law is an argument between 2 people or 2 individuals. It must be a preponderance of evidence, meaning greater than 51% that definitely somebody's guilty. Now, with criminal law, it has to be without a shadow of a doubt. Contract law, know what the term consideration means. Contract law requires a competent person. So if the person doesn't understand what's going on, can they come into a contract with you? No, they cannot. Implied versus expressed contracts, or implied versus expressed consent. Okay? Know those situations. Know your tort law, intentional versus unintentional. Which one is malpractice? Which one is negligence? Administrative law. What's a summary judgment? What is arbitration? Hey, looky here. Arbitration got discussed in chapter 6 and in chapter 2. So what are the odds arbitration is going to come out in this exam? This is pretty darn good, isn't it? And how many chapters did we go through? We went through what?
7.
6 or 7, was it 6 or 7 chapters? And I told you it's going to be 50 or 60 items. Do you think you can pull out top 10 items in each chapter based on the objectives? And do you think you can write the exam? Yes. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I've been telling you to do all this time. Then you make up that exam and then you practice it on your own. Remember, to train the same way the fight will go. Okay? So that is, we didn't talk too much about how to testify in court, but it's something nice to look at. So, but you know, nice to know versus I definitely must know. Okay, we had the Martin Luther Day King quiz, and let's see if what I did worked. Doop. Now you can take the quiz, okay? Because I let go of all the constraints. But do understand, whatever grade you got the first time will stand, okay? So even if you take the exam like, oh, I got 100 that undergrad, so okay, that's nice and good. You already took it. Sorry, it's more for practice. Because remember, practice the same way as the real thing would go. Okay, chapter, and I also have a video here on chapter 5. So and half the video got messed up. So, but I also made, you can see here, I also made some really, really solid notes for chapter 5. Let's look at them. Know your glossary terms. In my video, especially in the first part of the video, those are the glossary of terms that I talked a lot about. I talked a lot about advanced directives. What are the part of the advanced directives that you need to know? You need to know the difference between living will and durable power of attorney. Living will is the exact document that outlines what to do if I can't speak or can't communicate anymore. Durable power of attorney means what? I'm assigning a proxy, or I'm assigning somebody in my place to make decisions for me. AMA against medical advice. In loco parentis, rights of the minors. Parents patriae, also part of the rights of the minors. They look kind of similar, don't they? I'm not going to go into it now. It's on the video. But don't you think that would be a beautiful comparative question? Don't you think that would be a beautiful discussion question? You betcha. Diagnosis versus prognosis. Which one is the complete knowledge for those of you who took my medical terminology class? And which one? Thank you. That, if you learned anything in my midterm, as long as you learn that, I think you should be good to go. But prognosis is what? Before knowledge. When I tell you, you're in remission, your cancer is gone, does it mean it's gone forever? No, it might come back. Don't get upset at me if it comes back earlier or much, much later. And I always give the example of breast cancer. Most breast cancers have very good post 5 years prognosis. So, if you don't get breast cancer within the next 5 years, and the next 10 years, the odds of you getting breast cancer again are pretty good. But don't call yourself a survivor a year after your last bout with breast cancer. Because how many more years you got to go statistically? And remember what we talked about in chapter 6 and 7? We only make decisions based on statistics. And statistics tell us, when will you get hit again? Within 5 to 10 years after the first time. That's regarding breast cancer. After 10 years, if you can survive with no cancer after 10 years, what are the odds of you getting cancer? It drops down dramatically. That's why I've had many friends and many clients and many patients who said, "Oh, I'm a breast cancer survivor." Because when you got it, he goes, "Oh, I was diagnosed in 2011 and I survived it in 2012." Now, I don't want to rain on our parade. Talk to me again in 2017. If you get it again, well, I hope you make it. But in 2017, and how's this? 2023, and she doesn't have it anymore, guess what? Call yourself a survivor. Odds of you getting it are significantly reduced. What is the definition of a minor? One thing that we didn't talk a lot about, but I did give you a story about, was the emancipated minor. Let's for example, you're a Miley Cyrus, you're making $1 bazillion, you go to court to be free from your parents so that you can make all your financial decisions. That's one kind of emancipated minor. But the emancipated minor that we like to discuss in medical are the ones who get pregnant. How many 12-year-olds I've had, but 3 or 4, had what? Positive HCG, therefore they're what? They're pregnant. Can I talk to mommy and daddy anymore? I cannot. I now must gain consent from this person who is younger than 18. And that's what an emancipated minor is. And it leads to a very sticky situation. I want to know what's going on with my daughter. I can't. And then of course the daughter will tell me, "Don't tell my dad, please. I'll do anything if you don't tell my father." And I'm like, "But I'm asking you to talk to your father because he'll get very upset when I tell him I can't talk to you." And he'll get suspicious. Physician's rights. Remember, the patient-physician relationship is a contract. And remember the concept of justice. The patient has rights, the doctor has rights. The patient has responsibilities, the doctor has responsibilities. And you must know what those things are. What happens to non-compliant patients? What happens to non-paying patients? Oh, for those of you who I used to talk about how 90 days, it's not 90 days anymore. The physician I just saw yesterday, she'll start hitting me up for money bond 30 days, and she will send me to collections at 60. My day, I send you collections, well, on day 120, maybe never. No, she says outright, oh no, that's our standard rule. And I'm like, why so early? She goes, I had enough of. Because think about it. That's like me selling you a candy bar today, and you don't pay me in 90 days, in 3 months, and then I'm allowed to go after you? Medical is the only profession that we do that. Try that with your mechanic. Try that with a plumber or the contractor. You'll bring your butt to court and all. Or this is another thing that I've heard of. A friend of mine is he's a handy guy. He went to jobs where he undid what he did. Because you don't pay me, I'm coming back to your house and I'm undoing what I did. Because you paid for me to fix your fence. Guess what? I will remove all the parts of the fence that I fixed because you won't pay me. And you didn't think about it? Has the right to do that. Effective hand washing, we talked about that case. Duties during a medical emergency. How do things change, especially regarding consent during emergencies? Know what this term turfing or dumping means. It's related to the term abandonment. How do you treat an indigent patient? An indigent patient is a patient who can't pay. It's not that they're homeless. For example, goes, I'm not Mr. Moneybags, but do I have $1,000 cash laying on me at any given time? No. So if that's required, I shouldn't treat my patient like a persona non grata just because they can't pay me right now. AMA principles, look on page 103. Ethical considerations when treating AIDS patients, page 107. And remember, there is no steadfast law, no national law stating that if me, the caregiver, the medical caregiver, has HIV, I don't necessarily have to report it to my patient. There is no national law that's doing that. Patient's Bill of Rights, very important. Know what HIPAA is. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Confidentiality. Know about the duty to tell the truth. Let's look at that table on page 5.3, page 113. And if you look at that, look at this nice chart. Patient's Bill of Rights. You don't have to memorize it, but look over it. Read it. Right to encourage, to obtain from physicians and other direct caregivers relevant, current, understandable information. This is the verbiage that every time you go to the hospital, you got to fill out that like pink or purple form or whatever crazy color that is. And you'll have to fill it every time. And take the time to read it. You have the right to review your records. You have the right to expect that all communications, that's why now they even ask you for your Facebook, they even ask you for everything. Because they want you to be able, they ask you also for preference. Which way do you want to be communicated the best? Okay? You, the patient, remember autonomy? Auto means self. Nam means to name. You name yourself what you want to do. Us as medical professionals only give you options. I cannot dictate your care. I give you options and you do what? The good doctor yesterday, when she even told me, this is what I'm thinking of. She even asked, is that okay if I run tests on that? This is why I want to run tests on it. Is that okay with you? I go, yeah, sure, doc. And then guess what? Then her orders matched what I said yes to. Advanced directives, we already talked about that. Consent. Let's look on page 124. Numbered list on page 124. I got confused there. Know your exceptions to consent. When can you withdraw consent? Remember, against medical advice, you have the right to withdraw consent at any given time. Remember I told the story in the video? My patient, we were there in pre-op. We're already wheeling her into the OR. And she says what? Out loud, I don't want to do this. Please stop. I'm not joking. I asked the circulating nurse, did you hear that? She said yes. I heard it too. Do you think the physician was happy? Anesthesiologist was happy? The other people in the room were happy? No.
They were all
But
mad.
they're all mad at me. They said just put her under. But what I say? I heard it, she heard it. We have no choice now.
She trusted me.
Okay? Because that is the patient deal. The patient has the right. Remember, the patient has rights, the doctor has rights. The patient has the right to do what? Call it. Same thing with the anesthesiologist. I've had one or two situations where they're wheeling her back at the pre-op. The anesthesiologist says to me, I don't like the way her baseline blood pressure looks. Let's postpone it to Monday. And I go, and I tell them, I got to do another set of pre-admission testing just because of blood pressure? Yes. I have to do now 4 more hours of paperwork. Why? Because the anesthesiologist doesn't like the number. And she tells me, oh, I did the BP 3 times in the last 20 minutes. I don't like it. It's too low. It's scary. I don't want her to die there. So we did what? Postpone. But if I postpone, what must I do? I have to do all the workup all over again. So know there's exceptions to consent. Know the refusal to grant consent. Know against medical advice. Okay. That's about it. And the last thing I talked about before the rest of the video, of course, the standard of care. Oh, looky here. Standard of care was mentioned on like 3 different chapters. I don't know. You think it's going to come out? Gee whiz. And again, I haven't seen my midterm because the last time I wrote the midterm and gave it to students was like 2 years ago. But I will be looking at it this afternoon. So you can make your own exam based on what? Just by looking at the objectives. All right? If no one has any questions, have a great weekend. Good luck on your midterms, and also next week we're having a contest with all the classes. If you wear red, or as much red as you can, you know, like a red shirt, a red hat, red shoes, whatever, because going red is a promotion, and maybe you've seen some of the signs around campus. The American Heart Association is going, every year they have this thing on like February 6th where everyone wears red. Well, we're having a competition like which class can have the most red. So if our class has the most red, I forgot what the prize was, but I'm voting that it's pizza. I'd like to have pizza for my class. So if we all, so Monday night, I'm going to be wearing as much red as I can. So I'm going to be looking a little bit strange. But that's okay because it's promotion of what? Awareness for heart and heart diseases. And remember, hypertension is considered a cardiovascular disease, and it is right next to diabetes mellitus, the most common preventable disease that we have. And you can, and I'm living proof you can do wonders.